Welcome back. Senior Vice President of Imani Africa, Kofi Bento, has criticized the ongoing mediation efforts led by the Asantehene Otumfuo Seti II in addressing the Bawku conflict. Speaking on Newsfile today, Mr. Bento argued that the situation has deteriorated beyond what traditional mediation or policing can solve. He proposed a military intervention as the best outcome to impose peace in the area.
Unfortunately, with all the respect I have for Otumfuo, I have to say this. He will not succeed. If anybody could succeed in this matter, he won't succeed. If anybody could succeed in this matter, he would have succeeded. He has that heft with which he can help resolve this matter. What is going on is basic. What you have in Bawku is not a scuffle or disagreement that mediation, negotiation, reasoning, and such stuff will resolve. And we've been doing that for many years. It's been failing. We keep doing the same things. It's been failing. I say here and now, the Bawku situation is not a police situation. It is not something for keeping law and order. In fact, the Minister just says, he used the word, it's a war situation. The Bawku situation has gone beyond police. This is what the military do. What the military are trained to do is to take territory, hold it, and impose peace. If police could do this, they would have done it.
Well, in a related development, former Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Andrew Ejapamesa, has urged politicians from both previous and current government with vested interest in the Bawku conflict to withdraw completely. He blamed political interference for the escalating tensions.
I'm not particularly knowledgeable with respect to the historical antecedents that has degenerated into what it is that is happening there. But certainly, I'm aware of the politicking that we have sought to exploit for our own expediency when it comes to these matters. And I think that it's about time that we call a spade, get the politicians to stay off if the military have to go in to maintain some level of peace so that the mediation that the revered Asantehene is working on can make progress. I believe that that's the way that we have to go.
Meanwhile, economic policy analyst Senyor Hosi has offered a different approach, calling for negotiative dialogue among traditional leaders of the feuding factions and relevant state actors as the most viable path towards peace.
Peace. I beg you, sit down, come to a consensus politically, and it has to be a hard one. This is the end of the road. This is the map. We want to avoid that hard end. Okay, let's go the soft route and negotiate our way peacefully and create harmony. If you can't, we also as a country cannot continue to pump resources and destroy the lives of the people there. So we'll have to take the hard decision. You will kiss it all goodbye. You will kiss it all goodbye. We can't fight in perpetuity. Harmony must be realized by force or by negotiation.
Still on the Bawku crisis, the minority in parliament has taken on the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohuno, over his promise of police recruitment for the youth of Bawku in exchange for peace. A latest clash between the residents and police in Bawku on Wednesday has led to the death of one person and the injury of two others, including a police officer. The Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohuno, is currently in the area leading mediation talks with stakeholders to resolve the situation, where he's promising special police recruitment for the youth if they lay down their weapons, a position the minority is unhappy about. We'll hear from them shortly, but first, listen to what the IGP said in his first engagement with the youth.
Have confidence in us so that together we'll work and that will bring peace to this area. We assure you that when it comes to recruitment, we'll give the people of Bawku priority. We'll give the youth of Bawku priority. And so for that matter, a special team will come here to do special recruitment for people of the youth of Bawku. And I hope if I'm sleeping in Bawku tonight, I will not hear any gunfire. And I hope the people will assure me so that I can sleep here and then I can bring more people, the NGOs and investors who want to come to Bawku. So I'm going to test it tonight. If for the next 3 days I'll be here and I don't hear any gunfire, then I know you have received my message. So please forgive us, forgive all the security agencies where they have gone wrong. If anybody has any special concern about any security officer, please report it to us. We are ready to solve that problem. And all your grievances should go to the overlord. And when overlord receives it, I speak with the overlord every day, and then he will tell me your concerns and we work together to solve it.
But the minority at a press conference yesterday registered strong objection to the IGP's position, warning it could lead to more chaos in the area. Kofi Amankwa-Aminu is Deputy Ranking Member on the Defense and Interior Committee.
IGP's visit is rather going to create more problems than good. To say that lay down your tools, and that if you lay down your tools, we will consider you for recruitment. It's something that one cannot understand. Why should people, I mean, yes, it is important. In order to de-escalate the situation in the Bawku enclave, it is important that we get all parties involved to lay down their tools. But for me, it will be absurd to recruit people into the security services based on the fact that they've laid down their tools. What it means, that if you do not even meet the criteria to be recruited into the security service, you will be recruited into the security service because you have laid down your tool. That obviously is not the way to go. It is important that we deal with the Bawku issue once and for all. I mean, if we all know the sensitivities surrounding the Bawku issue, so if we are not careful and then one ethnic group lay down tools and then they are recruited into the security services, we all know the chaos this is going to create for the nation. It is simply not the way to go.
Well, the Kantamanto Market leadership has distanced itself from a recent strike by the Ghana Used Clothing Dealers Association, GUCDA, asserting that the group does not speak for the broader market community. In a strongly worded statement, the leadership clarified that GUCDA represents only a small group of importers and not the larger network of retailers, KIA, tailors and upcyclers who make up the heart of Kantamanto's operations. They reaffirmed their long-standing partnership with the Oral Foundation, commending the organization's support in areas like fire recovery, upcycling training and public health. They defended the foundation's research on textile waste, stressing that up to 40% of imported clothing is unsellable, a reality traders face daily due to overproduction from the global north. Rejecting GUCDA's claim that their strike action reflected the market's interest, the leadership insisted the protest was not representative and undermines collaborative efforts aimed at sustainable solutions. Despite recent setbacks, including a major fire, Kantamanto remains open for business, with its leadership calling for continued support and investment in a more sustainable future. Well, starting next month, expect to pay more for electricity and water. That is because the Public Utility Regulatory Commission, PURC, has approved a new tariff increases citing rising inflation and outstanding debt owed to utility providers. The new rates, which is expected to take effect in early May, are aimed at keeping the utility companies afloat while balancing consumer burden. Joy Business editor George Riafi joins me in studio with details of a statement from PURC explaining the reason for the increment. Hello, George.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
Not bad.
Okay, so what exactly is PURC? What's your reason for doing this?
So if you go through the statement, let's do first the background. Basically, we have an understanding and agreement that every quarter tariffs should be reviewed. Now, what are the things that are going to influence the commissioners of the Public Utility and Regulatory Commission when they meet to review these tariffs? You're looking at, one, the city's performance against the US dollar. You're also looking at inflation. You're also looking at the cost of these products, that is, when it comes to crude oil prices that is used in powering these plants, and also gas as well. And they look at the outlook as well for the economy. And all these factors play a critical role. Now, if they come to understanding that indeed inflation is high, it means that these power producers are going to use more money to buy the same quantity of fuel to power these plants, and therefore they have to take certain measures to review some of these tariffs. And when they looked at some of these key indicators for Q1 and Q2, they realized that they have to adjust what you pay a little bit higher so that they can break even. Even though if you look at the numbers, the argument is that even if everybody's paying for everything, there will still be a challenge in marking up when it comes to recovering all the costs. But they realize that these things have to be done where consumers may have to gradually pay for the cost of producing these power. And that is why they looked at all these variables, and then they recommended that for electricity, you're going to pay a little over 19%, starting May 3. And for water, you're going to pay about 4.02%. And interestingly, like in the past where there was some reliefs and maybe different category of users, for this particular one, if you go through the statement, you get the understanding that it's actually for across board of all the category of users.
So everyone is affected.
Everyone is affected. So if you look at the statement, for instance, from the Tariff, they talk about the fact that with the first and second quarters, the regulatory process, in line with the Commission's quarterly tariff review mechanism outlined in the rate setting guidelines for the tariffs, to look at the natural gas, electricity, and the water. So the quarterly adjustment tracks the incorporation of charges. That is one key variable, being that the $3 exchange rate, inflation, electricity generation mix, cost of fuel, and electricity tariffs as well. The quarterly tariff review mechanism is essential, meant to avoid what they call the over and under recovery of revenues. The under recovery of revenues negatively impacts these companies. Basically, the second quarter of 2025, there were weighted averages for the exchange rate, and that is what they explained there. So they are trying to avoid a situation where, indeed, these power producers are producing power, right, but they cannot recover their cost. There are some who already point in the IMF program argument and all the rest. Now, before we signed the program, there was an argument that, listen, it wasn't about the fund instructing us. You have issues with the power supply. People are not paying what they call more of a cost recovery rate. So as part of the IMF saying, if we are coming on board to help you, then also take steps to ensure that if ECG is producing, if the water guys are producing, consumers are paying for the right cost. It wasn't more of like a conditionality of a system, but do the right thing. And as part of those conditions, we're supposed to review every quarter. What also happened is that for the last quarter last year, it appears that there wasn't any review. So that's why we've seen this huge increment.
So this one is absolutely necessary.
This is necessary. And also expect that the third quarter, even in the IMF program, if you look at the conditions, there's supposed to be a huge increment in the fourth quarter of this year to try and balance all those previous gaps that have been created by their delay in actually doing these adjustments. So it is more of ensuring that when these guys, there's a huge debt in the energy sector as well. So how can they use these tariffs to correct that? Because government also is not in a good financial position to take care of these debts. And therefore, the tariffs are going to be used as more of a gradual correction measure. If these tariffs or BRC sticks to this quarterly review, then you would avoid a situation where in a quarter you might see tariffs going up by more than 10%. If you do 2, 3, and also don't forget that inflation is critical here. If government is able to manage the economy while inflation comes down, you may end up paying a little bit less than what we are seeing.
Okay, but George, even though this is necessary, it's going to come at great discomfort to consumers.
It's a necessary evil. At the end of the day, you know, some might say it is robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're not paying for it. Government is going to take that money that was meant to be used as a social relief to you to pay these debts. So it's robbing Peter to pay Paul argument here. Why don't you ensure that if the consumers have disposable income and they are spending, then it's about your consumption. You are paying for what you consume. If you think that you may not be able to pay for these things, if you can cut down your consumption also, it helps as well.
Okay, so increasing electricity and water, was that the only resort? Was that the last resort?
It was the last resort because we are operating on a mechanism where you allow consumers to pay for what they consume. Government is gradually moving away from that social policy where I subsidize what you consume. So it's a gradual thing that if people are consuming X amount of power, then they should pay for that power.
Okay, thank you so much, George Rafe. He's editor with Joy Business. Well, moving on, former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah has urged Parliament to ensure that any upcoming legislation targeting misinformation and disinformation does not include provisions that could suppress free speech. This comes after Communications Minister Sam George announced earlier this week that he plans to introduce a bill in Parliament to combat fake news when the House reconvenes. The proposed legislation aims to address the growing concerns around misinformation and disinformation in the country. Speaking at a dialogue on misinformation and disinformation held in Accra, Mr. Tuah acknowledged the importance of regulatory measures to curb the harmful effects of fake news, especially in an age where social media and digital platforms rapidly amplified unverified content.
The former Deputy Attorney General expressed support for laws against fake news, but raised concerns about potential censorship of free speech. He emphasized the need for broader stakeholder consultation in drafting the bill. He stressed that transparency and accountability are key to ensuring that any legislation introduced is balanced, democratic, and in line with Ghana's constitutional provisions on fundamental human rights.
I've said it's basically because of the right to free speech. It's a constitutional right, it's a fundamental right, and that it is part of our democracy that people on the other side must also express their dissent. And so if we have a law that's seeking to also put some stumbling blocks on free expression, then there's that kind of worry. But as I said, when it comes to misinformation or disinformation, we should be looking at national security vis-a-vis the subject matter in contention. If that misinformation borders on national security and has far-reaching consequences, then we must, at all costs, make sure that we crack the whip. But criminalizing speech, as you know, has been outlawed in Ghana. In fact, in 2001, the law on criminal libel was repealed. And the remnant left is what we have under Section 208. And under 208 talks about fear and panic. And so the question, that's why I pose that question. If it's about fear and panic, then it means a lot of people may be arrested. But if we can fine-tune the law, have a standalone legislation, trying to figure out all the scenarios and come up with a very good law, I'm all for it.
Country Director of Conrad at the Noya Stiff Tank, Anna Wasafall, urged Kenyans to double-check information they come across, especially on social media, to ensure that they are not consuming fake news.
I think the social media platforms are definitely part of the responsible infrastructure to do that. And as I also mentioned, there are efforts to also work on legislation that, for example, makes it obligatory to highlight if something has been digitally altered or if something has been made with AI. However, I don't really believe that, with the pure amount of information that we are seeing on social media and the billions of actors we are seeing on social media as individuals who are on social media, it will really be possible to solve the issue just through legislation or just by holding the platforms accountable, which is why I find it extremely important that we, as ourselves, as individuals, also take our part of the responsibility when it comes to fake news, to mis and disinformation, as in we need to make sure that we cross-check, we need to make sure that we actually validate information that we are getting, and we need to make sure that we are not becoming spreaders of mis and disinformation.
Daniel Otinewa is the SRC president of the Ghana School of Law.
For us, from a world perspective, it's actually sad. You have big people and people of huge influence on social media, usually peddling out whatever information without fact-checking, and it becomes a problem because these people have influence, they have followers and other people who actually listen or follow their lead. So it's quite problematic, and we're trying to find a way to curate our media and information space to make it more authentic.
The dialogue, which brought together various stakeholders, was under the theme misinformation, democracy and security, the legal response in a digital age, and the promotion of information integrity.
And moving on, Safe Child Advocacy is sounding the alarm over the worsening situation of children living on the streets of Kumasi. The organization says these children are being denied access to education, social integration and developmental opportunities while enduring abuse and harsh conditions in their daily struggle for survival. It warns that many are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty with no guidance or protection. On the occasion of International Day for Street Children, the group is calling on government and relevant agencies to show strong political will by enforcing existing child protection laws. Clinton Yeboah engaged some affected children and key stakeholders advocating for actions to combat streetism and filed this report.
For over 2 years, Naima Iliasu, an ambitious young woman, abandoned life at home in Tamale in the northern region of Ghana to face life on her own on the streets of Kumasi. Contrary to her expectations, the quest to escape poverty was confronted with a harsh reality that only put her at risk of being abused or worse. The constant fear of sleeping in front of the open along the roadside in Edum is a persistent show of her daily struggle for basic needs. Naima says her street life was an experience of a battle of hunger and harm.
You might be influenced to do things that you're not supposed to do, which is maybe stealing, armed robbery, and prostitution. Where I was, it was a container which doesn't have any door, and you might be there and someone might come and rape you or take your things when you are not strong enough to fight. Or if you are alone there and those who have come there, they are more than two and strong enough more than they can do anything to you.
Naima is now promised a new future of becoming a dressmaker with support from Safe Child Advocacy's skills training intervention. However, on the streets of Kumasi, at least over 20,000 young people who are mostly girls between 8 and 18 years old reel and roam to fend for themselves. Young girls are turning mothers and sex workers, young boys becoming armed robbers, and infants put at risk of death from street life. Rehabilitation officer at Safe Child Advocacy, Erica Educhumwa Konedu, reveals that these young people who are languishing on the streets have been forced to turn breadwinners.
Children as low as 8 years will be carrying heavy loads. We engage them on the street to know their situation. These children are supposed to be the dependents, not their parents rather. So it's very disheartening looking at their situation.
In commemoration of 2025 International Day for Street Children under the theme, The Power of Participation, Safe Child Advocacy is empowering children to be active participants in decisions that affect them. The social service organization reaches out to over 100 street children daily, commemorating the occasion while raising awareness with street campaigns and stakeholder engagement. Reverend Sister Olivia Umo is admonishing the government and enforcement agencies to exhibit the political will and be intentional in action to rid the streets of children.
Our vision really is a society where children enjoy safe childhood and develop their potentials to the fullest. And we believe that that society must come. We must contribute to make it happen, and everyone must also contribute to make it happen. That the government should be proactive about this issue, should be intentional and should be really serious about it. It just takes the political will of government. Families can exploit their children as much as possible, and government does not do anything, does not enforce the laws. There's so many beautiful laws and policies that have been enacted and are all on print in this country. If any of those laws and policies and regulations were enforced, this situation would have come to an end, or at least be minimal.
For Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
We'll take a break here on Joy Newsroom, but we'll be back with more. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. The government has announced its commitment to end the double-track secondary education system by 2027. According to the Education Minister, Haruna Idrisu, the previous administration introduced the system because of inadequate infrastructure to support what he described as the noble dream of expanding access to secondary education. Addressing CHAS members in Sunyai, the minister urged the Association of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools for a dedicated formula starting next year for infrastructure expansion by the government to end the double-track system. Precious Semevo has more.
To the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu, the forum with members of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, was for him to learn and hear from the stakeholders' concerns affecting and challenging the delivery of quality secondary education. He noted that the government will be compassionate to members, even as they are free to criticize or raise concerns politely and respectfully. Responding to some of the concerns raised by Reverend Father Stephen Osusetre, President of CHAS, the minister said the government is committed to ending the double-track system by 2027 with the expansion of infrastructure to increase the intake of students.
But at least policy guidance that next year you should identify 1 or 2 child schools for major infrastructure investment. So we expect that next year into your formula. You should have a dedicated formula that looks into expanded accommodation, expanded classroom infrastructure for a number of child schools so that you can increase your intake for purposes of supporting government to end the double-track system. We expect that by end of year 2027, the double-track system must be a thing of the past.
He said the government requires an investment of $2.5 billion in infrastructure to meet the needs of the education sector up to 2028.
From where I sit, between now and 2028, the education sector alone, if we are to respond to your needs, will require an investment of not less than $2.5 billion to get your infrastructure running. From preschool through junior high school, through secondary education, into tertiary education. And there must be special attention for CHAS. I assure you for that.
On the thorny issue of secondary school feeding, the minister assured CHAS checks would be ready by Monday, April 14, 2025, after the board of directors is named. Precious Semevo, Joy News, Sunyai.
And still on education, the sector minister has tasked the newly inaugurated Board of Trustees of GETFund to begin processes towards securing approval for 250 million Ghana cedis allocated to senior high schools for food. My colleague Maxwell Akloboto has more in this report.
Under the current government's policy of financing the free senior high school program through the GETFund, Education Minister Haruna Idrisu has tasked the newly inaugurated 70-member Board of Trustees of the GETFund to swiftly work towards securing the approval of 250 million Ghana cedis. This amount will be allocated to the Ghana Education Service and the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools to provide meals for senior high schools across the country.
In that direction, I needed the board to take some immediate and urgent decisions that assures free senior high schools of available, reliable feeding of food. And today, even as I inaugurate you, we have less than 48 hours to satisfy the requirement. So, Chairman, I'll urge you and your members to begin your first sitting even after this inauguration, because we need immediate approval for the release of at least 250 million cedis, Ghana cedis, to the GES and CHAS to provide for feeding for senior high schools across the country.
He also urged the board to prioritize equity in allocating funding across various levels of education to ensure alignment with government policies. Additionally, he emphasized the need to focus on completing approximately 3,500 projects that have been initiated by the GETFund but remain unfinished.
You see an amount of less than 1.5 billion allocated for basic education. an amount of not more than 1.5 billion allocated for tertiary education. That is not equity. Initiated and standing as far back 2014, 2015 to yesterday, we are all Ghanaians. The Constitution under the directive principles of state policy enjoys succeeding government to go ahead and complete those uncompleted projects. So, Chairman and members of the trustees, we cannot take all of them at the same time. Maybe you pick some few, make your own recommendations, we get them completed.
The Member of Parliament for Whole West and Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Emmanuel Bedra, speaking on behalf of the committee, assured that they would deliver excellent results. Maxwell Aklobo to report for Joy News.
The transition from education to work is a critical time for young individuals, and it requires concerted efforts from both employers and the education system to bridge the skills gap and empower youth for development. The career fair by the African University of Communications and Business created this conducive environment to address the skills gap for students. Jennifer August has more in this report. At the African University of Communications and Business Career Fair 2025, key industry players provided practical guidance and shared their expertise with students, making them not just informed but truly inspired. Head of University Relations Ajua Obuododu said the goal of the event was to enable students to meet industry leaders, gain invaluable career insights, and explore job opportunities that will shape their futures.
So the Career Fair is one of the many initiatives we are putting in place post-charter to make sure that our students are well-grounded. We've put this together to give them the opportunity to network with industry players, to enable them gain connections that might help them sometime soon. So we expect that people will be able to get internship opportunities, volunteering opportunities, and even job opportunities from this Career Fair.
International Development Communications consultant Chris Wola Esipe highlighted strategies for bridging the gap between education and employment, offering valuable advice on career readiness.
Flexibility is really key when you are looking for what you want to do. You may be studying communications in the university, but the role available or the job you find or the organization that is ready to hire has a role that has something to do with communications at all. Sometimes you would need people to speak for your work. When they say your work will speak for itself, it's not true. It is people who speak about your work to other people. So managing relations is also very key.
Ellen Diamond Dejo, a student at the university, explained that programs like these provide insightful access to industry players.
Programs like this are very necessary because not only do they introduce us to the realities of the world outside school, but they also bring industry players to us, get us to have one-on-one conversations with them and pick up things from them, mistakes that they made, so that we do not repeat those same mistakes.
Jennifer August's report read to you. Away from education, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, MIST, has begun implementing a $7 million project to support Ghana's transition to a circular economy in the plastic sector. The minister has tasked 10 SMEs to help collect over 90,000 tons of plastic waste as part of efforts to reduce plastic pollution in oceans and waterways. The initiative falls under the Circular Economy Framework for the plastic sector, a key part of the National Plastic Management Policy approved in 2020. Joy News' Anthony Menu has more in the following report.
It generates approximately 840,000 tons of plastic waste each year. Yet, about 9.5% is recycled, leaving the majority to pollute drains, landscapes and marine environments. To address this challenge, the government, through the Environment Ministry, in collaboration with the Global Environment Facility and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, has launched the Circular Economy Framework for the Plastics Sector Project. The 5-year project seeks to prevent at least 13,000 tons of marine litter, collect a minimum of 93,000 tons of plastic waste, and train 2,000 individuals in circular economy practices. As part of the project, $4.35 million has been earmarked for SMEs to pilot sustainable waste management innovations. Already, $331,606 has been disbursed to 10 SMEs to kickstart various pilot initiatives in biodegradable plastics, food-grade recycling, and construction-grade recycled materials. The Minister for Environment, Murtala Mohammed, urged the beneficiary SMEs to ensure proper use of funds and commit fully to the project's objectives.
I haven't asked any of you to give me $1. And I haven't asked anybody to come to any of you to say, give honorable $1. So you should all be conscious that I will monitor to see how the monies are utilized. I don't need $1, a cedi from any of you. You need to use the monies for the purpose for which it was intended. And I'll take particular interest for the monitoring. But this is just a first tranche. So you see, international organizations' money is not it's not like money you can just spend. They give you the money based on some conditions. You need to do A, B, C, D. And it is our responsibility as a ministry to monitor to see whether indeed you use the money for the intended purpose. So please, I don't need anything from you, but trust me, they won't be messy. If you are not using the money for which it was intended, don't go and ask any big man to call me, because I would insist that they take you out. And there's nothing wrong with you getting the first tranche and you don't get the subsequent tranches.
Strategic Partners and Project Engagement Lead Joseph Yeboah, representing the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, also outlined critical components of the intervention.
The pilot projects that the project is supporting are aligned to 3 key areas or 3 key pillars, which are first of all the prevention of contamination or pollution of the environment or habitats, including the oceans. Secondly, that we're able to decouple plastic production from fossil fuels, and then thirdly, that we're able to create an effective after-use economy for plastics. And when you look at the nature of the activities that all these companies are going to implement, they fall within these 3 areas. So some are doing collection, effective plastic collection. Some are creating systems where they have what they call plastic buyback centers. There are others that are going to actually produce plastics potentially from other biodegradable sources like cassava flour, and others. So these are the areas of intervention. All these fall within the 3 pillars that I've mentioned.
Beyond waste recovery, the project is also expected to generate over 10,000 direct and indirect jobs across the country. Anthony Menu's report for Joy News.
Now to some other stories. Poor oral health may be silently chipping away at workplace productivity. The Ghana Dental Association says there's a strong link between dental hygiene and mental health challenges like depression and anxiety. At a forum on the mind and the smile, experts told Joy News that employees battling oral health issues are 3 times more likely to suffer depression and more prone to taking unplanned sick leave. Mamavi Fakote has more. The Ghana Dental Association says oral health goes far beyond fresh breath or a bright smile. It plays a crucial role in mental well-being and ultimately job performance. Speaking to Joy News, the president of the association and head of the dental department at UGMC explained that the link between poor oral health and mental health is often overlooked, yet it directly affects workplace productivity.
Looking at different aspects of life, we look at aesthetics, which is the appearance, your appearance.
you realize that a lot of people, based on the size of their teeth, maybe they think their teeth are too small. Some people think their teeth are too large. The color of their teeth, the shape of their teeth, and then also their malocclusion. When we say malocclusion, we're talking about how your two jaws are related. And studies have shown that people with poor oral health are 3 times more likely not to show up at work and to ask for sick leaves. We've also learned that about 37% of people who have poor oral health end up having depression. Okay, and these are all mental health issues. And once you have mental health issues, you are also not going to be productive at work. So that's the link that we're trying to establish here. You have poor oral health conditions leading to your mental health disturbances and therefore leading to low productivity, absenteeism, presenteeism. You are present, but you're not doing anything.
Also speaking at the event, Dr. Richida N.A. Taylor-Dawson, president of the Medical Women's Association, called on employers to prioritize dental incentive packages as part of employee health care.
My discussion, you realize that I mentioned something about an oral health examination that should be done as part of a corporate social responsibility from employer to employee. And then the instance I gave was that employee's birthday should be when it should be done. So what it means is that human resource obviously have everybody's date of birth. So then a few days before your birthday, they will send you a message or Equiameno, happy birthday, assess your dental and oral health care birthday package or gift from management, and then at maybe ANC Mall or at XYZ clinic. So what it is that once you do that, your employee feels that you have their well-being at heart, and therefore they would give their best to you. And what it also means is that when they have another offer elsewhere, that little bit of what you did for them as their dental birthday package becomes a deciding factor as to whether they should stay with you or they should go elsewhere.
The Ghana Dental Association believes such initiatives could even influence how employees assess job offers, viewing oral health support as a serious benefit. Mamavi Sefakote's report, read to you. We'll take another break here on Joy Newsroom, but we'll be back with some business news. Welcome back. Let's do some business. The country manager for Yango Ride in Ghana, Tom Ofonime, has made a passionate appeal for more investment in the transport industry to grow the ride-hailing operations in the country. He disclosed that about 80% of partner drivers struggle to raise funds to purchase small vehicles to operate in the area. He spoke after the second edition of the Yango Digital Mobility Awards in Accra.
The event, which took place on Thursday, 10th April in Accra, aims to celebrate and recognize the achievement of Yango's partners, drivers, passengers and other stakeholders who have made significant contributions to the digital mobility sector in Ghana. Speaking to journalists, the country manager for Yango Ride in Ghana, Tom Ofonime, advised financial institutions to start considering investment in the sector to create more jobs.
It starts with one, yeah? You do one and then you do 10 and then you do 100. Yango in and of itself cannot do all of it. But we've continuously engaged financial institutions. We've discussed with some that I can't mention their names now, but within the coming months we'll begin to see these opportunities spring up and also see how we can, find more and more low interest rates for the fleet partners to be able to get cars and give to drivers. YDMA is focused on rewarding excellent service. We want to be able to ensure that we encourage more and more people to put their best in what they're doing, especially when it comes to the ride-hail space. So I'm super excited. Congratulations to everybody that won tonight.
Several partner drivers received prizes ranging from 4 vouchers, free car maintenance and diagnostic solutions, electrical appliances, mobile phones, among others. The Driver of the Year award went to Ernest Dogbe.
I'm the happiest man on the planet this very moment. Very, very, very happy, to be honest. I don't know the way to celebrate it because it's just overjoy. And what I can say is that I thank God for today, and I thank God also for bringing Yango into this country because they are the one that win this. Without them, there will be no competition challenge over there. So I thank God for Yango, and I pray that Yango go from strength to strength. Yango becomes stronger. Yango become the dominant, as it is now, more than dominant in the whole city and even beyond.
At the 2025 Ghana Green Summit, State Housing Company Limited unveiled a forward-looking strategy aimed at driving affordable and sustainable housing in Ghana. Managing Director John S. Bauer emphasized a shift from traditional construction models to more community-driven planning and eco-friendly building practices. Rosila Calistego has more in this report.
At the Ghana Green Summit, Managing Director of the State Housing Company, John S. Bauer, outlined bold reforms aimed at improving housing access for Ghanaians. According to him, the State Housing Company is now designing homes based on the needs and affordability of local communities rather than following a one-size-fits-all model. He explained that beyond planning, the State Housing Company is also exploring alternative materials like compressed earth blocks and partnering with private tech firms to convert local resources into building components.
Affordability starts, like I mentioned, from the planning phase. If we plan projects with the end user in mind, that helps the whole process. So one of the things we are changing at State Housing is that we're changing the way we approach projects. In the past, you would have a situation where we go buy land or we get allocated land. We decide in our offices, oh, we're going to do 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and then we go and start building, and then we start selling. We are changing the process around such that we're looking at the communities in which we believe there's a need or there's a gap that needs to be filled between the low end and the very high end, which is the problem we have today. And so we're looking at exploring those communities, finding out what kind of homes people are looking for in those communities. What can people afford, most importantly? And that is what is going to drive the communities that we plan to the various areas.
He also added that these efforts will not only lower costs, but also help Ghana build more climate-resilient homes as part of a broader national sustainability push. To make home buying easier, the State Housing Company is also establishing a mortgage desk and working with financial institutions to support both buyers and project funding.
Two specific things that we're doing very quickly. One is we're establishing a mortgage desk. So there's a mortgage specialist joining our team who is going to help our buyers access mortgages at competitive rates to be able to buy our properties. Secondly, we had our first meeting with Commercial Bank on helping finance purchases for home buyers as well as finance the construction of our projects. So we are looking forward to all of these interventions giving us the results we're looking for to make Ghanaians be able to access affordable housing easier.
Unveiled at the Ghana Green Summit, the State Housing Company's new approach marks a shift towards affordable and sustainable housing tailored to local communities. Rosla Calistego's report read to you.
Let's do some international news. There has been an explosion in central Athens near the offices of Greek railway company Hellenic Train. CCTV footage captured the moment the blast appeared to rip through a backpack reportedly left outside the office block late on Friday. Police said anonymous calls were made to Greek media outlets warning of the attack, which happened close to one of the capital's busiest highways, Leoforos Andriasigrou. No fatalities or injuries have been reported. Greece's Transport Minister Christos Tekouras condemned it as a criminal act which had endangered the lives of people. And that's it for Joy Newsroom. But if you want more stories, I highly recommend you log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Denisia Pomaije. Good afternoon.